But due course, I have a gentleman who I feel highly, in fact, I'm very much honored to have on my show. He is very spiritually conscious. I would consider him highly evolved spiritually. He is a UFO researcher, a contactee, and he has been lately in contact from the recently, in fact, more than recently, with I don't like to use the word alien so much, more like extraterrestrials, the group called known as the Orions. Pleasant to have Phil Coseski, and I'm deeply honored to have you on your show. Namaste. How are you doing?
Hi, Andrew. Thanks for having me on.
I just really briefly, I know there are certain aspects I want to talk to you about your contacts and what are the situation with Orions and where they're from and all that. But could you briefly tell my audience, briefly my listeners, a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, I'm a researcher out here in the Northeast, and somebody gave me a book about all this years ago, maybe 14 years ago. And after I read the book, it's called Silent Invasion. It was written by Ellen Crystal. She was the first real major UFO researcher of the New York Pine Bush area. This is the area in New York where these sightings, these craft have been appearing. After I read that book by Ellen, I took a trip out there with a friend, and we started to see these objects, these same kind of UFOs that Ellen was seeing and having some experiences with. And that was back in 1993, way back. And we caught our first video that very first night we went out there. We got an object that popped up just above the trees over some farm fields. And this object was just glowing and pulsating on and off for about 5 or 10 minutes. And we got like a 3 or 4 minute clip of this on video. And we were just really ecstatic when we saw this. But no, I've been doing research into this. I just started doing this research close to 2 years now.
Wow.
And
sounds pretty destined. What you end up, basically everybody's destined, but that's pretty much destined for your path to deal with the situation.
I've been coming to terms with that. I really felt that I've been chosen for this, and in fact, the aliens have communicated to me that I have been chosen as an experiment. So everything that's going on with me is really an experiment. They're to see if they can make me a contactee. I mean, to become a real contactee, somebody like that, that's really having physical contact with extraterrestrials is not a small matter. It's very complicated. There's a lot of issues involved, and there's a protocol that people have to meet in order to become that kind of liaison between the aliens and...
Now we're talking specifically about the Orions, or you've been in contact, or all extraterrestrials?
Basically, all extraterrestrials, real extraterrestrials that are on the Earth have some kind of protocol that they disseminate or that they teach to those that they consider potential contact material, and it's basically universal. It's like a universal law. It has nothing to do with publicity or anything like that, but it has everything to do with universal law and the state of consciousness of the individual is considered.
And that law is basically, not to jump horses here, but is the conscious level of their vibration. Am I not correct? That they have, because they're vibrating on a frequency. I don't like to use the word more so higher, but it could when
absolutely
a normal person would not, which I'm going to get into because I believe there's different originates first, so it originates too, so that when they contact them, then some people won't handle it, and physiologically won't be able to handle it as well as possibly mentally as well.
Absolutely.
Vibrational levels.
It's a matter of recognition, too, that they consider, because it's a matter of thinking, because these aliens, I mean, their thought process is just so far ahead of us, and I mean, just so they're thinking and dwelling on concepts that are just that we haven't even considered yet, and they've been dwelling in these kinds of mental concepts for thousands of years, and we haven't even begun to really even come into the elementary understanding of those concepts that they're already have been using, such as being telepathic, such as, eliminating a lot of the negative characteristic traits out of the human psyche, like jealousy and all these other kinds of negative states.
Possessiveness and hate and all that stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And from my understanding, so everybody out there who we're talking about, I know that you have been directly in contact with the Orions, and can you tell me, like, basically, so people out there in the audience who are not, pretty much no understanding of what the Orions or who they are?
Sure.
Who are they?
Okay, yeah, there's a lot of, first of all, the Orion constellation is very, very large, and it houses all kinds of different kinds of life forms. So there's everything from the traditional grays that come from Orion, a few stars from Orion. Then there's a reptilian species that comes from Orion. I think they come from Rigel, from what I understand. But the ones that I'm dealing with, the ones that have contacted me, the ones that are here in New York, they are from the belt stars of Orion, and they are humanoid. They look just like us, with some minor variations here and there, like some of their eyes maybe a little more circular, more oval than ours. Mm-hmm. But they are basically humanoid, and they look like us. And they were on Earth anciently. They had colonies. They were the ones that in fact, this particular race of aliens that are coming from the belt stars have told me that their ancestors were the ones responsible for building the Great Pyramid in the Giza and Sphinx down there in Egypt, over there in Egypt. And this really amazed me. And I subsequently, through some research, came into all kinds of secret knowledge that there exists a huge complex under the Pyramid of Giza that houses all kinds of ancient texts that prove the reality of extraterrestrial life, and it's being kept covered up by those that are in the know, because they don't want people to come into this knowledge or understanding, because it's going to shake the very foundations of the religious conceptions of the Earth people, and it's destined to change the fundamental thinking and feeling of Earth people when they come into this kind of knowledge. And that's why they're keeping it covered up, because they don't want people to be empowered. The people that want this covered up, they don't think that we can handle it.
Do you think it's not that we can't handle it, or do they think it's just, or is it the idea of trying to keep things, keep the game still going, the power game of, and the circumstances to continue, or that way they can perpetuate their control with their...
Yeah, that's partly it. I think it's a two-way street, though. I think it's partly that there is a control factor, but there also is a very real security threat when any kind of real extraterrestrial presence and knowledge starts to begin to be disseminated on Earth, because
it'll break all the foundations of most religions. I don't want to say most, but more of the Christian religions of all of them. But I think it will shake the foundations of humans for what they really are, though.
Absolutely, that's it. It's not just religion.
Yeah,
I mean, because religion is good because it does give people a certain structure to some extent, and there's in most religions there are principles which, if followed, will give people balance and a sense of decency.
Right.
Which is good, but I mean it's gone too far.
But the clerics have manipulated out of their control. I think their scriptures originally format were in good finding. I just found that a lot of the clerics have utilized it for power in a sort of a conspiratory way to keep the continuation of control.
I agree.
Of masses. And so the scriptures themselves are good. It's just as Jesus would say, it was the people who ran the show.
they've misinterpreted. I honestly believe that people have misinterpreted what Jesus and what a lot of people have said, and they've misinterpreted it. And no scriptures have any private interpretation. There's one scripture that says that. So, and you know, it's I think one.